His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa received the President of Egypt Abdel Fattah al-Sisi upon his arrival in the Kingdom of Bahrain. During the visit, His Majesty the Egyptian President will hold talks discussing the close relations between the two countries and the latest regional developments. His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa, their Highnesses the sons of His Majesty the King, and a number of ministers were also present to receive the Egyptian President. His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa held a meeting with the President of Egypt Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa, and a number of ministers attended the meeting. At the outset of the meeting, His Majesty welcomed the Egyptian President to Bahrain, noting that the visit reflects the strength of the long-standing and close bilateral relations between the two countries and the shared commitment of their leaderships to continued communication, coordination and consultation on regional developments. His Majesty commended Egypt's pivotal role in the Middle East, describing it as a key pillar of regional security and stability. He also praised the supportive positions of Egypt under the leadership of President Sisi and his solidarity with Bahrain, in addition to its backing for the measures taken by Bahrain to safeguard its sovereignty, security, stability and the safety of its citizens. His Majesty and President Sisi reviewed regional and international developments of mutual interest, particularly the latest regional developments and their implications for regional security and stability, and exchanged views on the efforts being made to address them. In this regard, President Sisi renewed Egypt's condemnation of the ongoing hostile Iranian aggression against the territory of Bahrain, describing it as a violation of state sovereignty and international law and norms and a threat to international peace and security. His Majesty and the Egyptian President also underscored the importance of United Nations Security Council Resolution 2817, which strongly condemned and called for the immediate cessation of all Iranian attacks against the GCC in Jordan, demanded the immediate and unconditional end to any provocation or threats against neighbouring countries and emphasized the inherent right of the GCC states in Jordan to defend themselves against Iranian attacks. The two leaders further stressed the utmost importance of halting Iran's threats to disrupt freedom of navigation in the Strait of Hormuz, considering that is a vital international waterway for global energy supplies and trade. They also noted that such threats contravene international law, including the law of the sea, and stressed that safeguarding maritime routes is a shared international responsibility requiring collective regional and global cooperation. His Majesty and President Sisi affirmed their commitment to continuing consultations on various issues in light of the common challenges facing the region. The two sides concluded by expressing pride in the long-standing historical ties between Bahrain and Egypt and their mutual commitment to further strengthening bilateral cooperation across all fields in a manner that serves the interests of both countries and fulfills the aspirations of their two people. His Majesty later hosted a luncheon in honor of President Sisi and the accompanying delegation. His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa bid farewell to the Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi upon his departure following a visit to the kingdom, during which he held talks with His Majesty on the distinguished bilateral relations between the two countries and the latest regional developments. His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa, their Highnesses the sons of His Majesty the King, and a number of ministers were also present. His Royal Highness the Crown Prince, Deputy Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces and Prime Minister Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa met with the United Kingdom's Defence Senior Advisor to the Middle East and North Africa, Vice Admiral Edward Algren, and an accompanying delegation at Rafah Palace. His Royal Highness highlighted the historic and deep-rooted relationship between Bahrain and the UK and the continued advancement of bilateral ties. His Royal Highness stressed the shared national commitment to advancing the Bahrain-UK strategic partnership across various sectors, particularly in military and defence cooperation in line with existing partnerships and agreements, including the Comprehensive Security Integration and Prosperity Agreements (CSIPA), to achieve shared goals and aspirations. His Royal Highness welcomed Vice Admiral Edward Algren and the accompanying delegation, highlighting the advanced levels of cooperation and partnership between both countries across various sectors, which contribute to shared growth and prosperity. His Royal Highness stressed the critical role of the UK and its allies in safeguarding regional and international security, stability and development. During the meeting, avenues to enhance cooperation, the latest regional developments and issues of common interest were reviewed. The National Security Advisor, Royal Guard Commander and Secretary General of the Supreme Defence Council, Lieutenant General His Highness Sheikh Nasser bin Hamad Al Khalifa, Minister of the Prime Minister's Court, His Highness Sheikh Isa bin Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa, and Minister of Finance and National Economy Sheikh Salman bin Khalifa Al Khalifa were in attendance. General Command of the Bahrain Defence Force announced that Iran continues its systematic hostile approach through unlawful missile and drone attacks targeting civilians in the Kingdom of Bahrain. It said that with firm resolve and a high state of combat readiness, the Bahrain Defence Force's air defence system successfully intercepted and destroyed several hostile Iranian aerial attacks this morning. The General Command confirmed that all services and units remain at the highest levels of readiness and full defensive of preparedness to protect the kingdom. It urged the public to exercise caution, avoid approaching or handling any unfamiliar or suspicious objects resulting from the remnants of the Iranian attacks and report them immediately. It said that personnel of the Royal Field Engineering Unit remain on full alert to safely handle and neutralize such objects, ensuring the safety of all citizens and residents. It stressed that the deliberate use of missiles and drones to target civilians and private property constitutes a flagrant violation of international humanitarian law. The General Command also expressed its pride in the advanced combat readiness and exceptional vigilance demonstrated by its personnel in carrying out their sacred duty to defend the nation. The Foreign Affairs Minister and current GCC Session Chair Dr. Abdulatif bin Rashid Al-Zayyani led the GCC delegation at the third high-level forum on regional security and cooperation between the GCC and the EU in Brussels. During the meeting, Al-Zayyani warned of the grave security situation in the Gulf amid continuing Iranian attacks, noting European condemnation of attacks on GCC states, Jordan and commercial navigation in the Strait of Hormuz, including incidents involving the Saudi tanker Wudian and the Qatari tanker Al-Ruqayyat. He described these acts as unjustifiable attacks on civilians and recalled the IMO Council's strong condemnation of Iran's attempt to assert control over the Strait and has called that states must not recognize any Iranian sovereignty claims or permit permit-free regime. Dr. Al-Zayyani welcomed the U.S.-Iran Memorandum of Understanding brokered by Pakistan and Qatar and said Iran breached it by targeting navigation and attacking GCC territory in violation of international law and UN Security Council Resolution 2817. He reaffirmed the indivisibility of GCC security and the state's right of self-defense under Article 51 of the UN Charter, and speaking for Bahrain, reiterated the evidence presented to the UN Security Council that Iran's attacks deliberately target civilians. He said the forum provides a platform for the GCC and EU to uphold international law, ensure Iran's full compliance with its obligations, restore freedom of navigation in the Strait of Hormuz without fees or impediments, and advance sustainable regional peace and security. The discussions drew on the 1988 GCC-EU cooperation agreement and nearly 4 decades of partnership to address regional developments, the impact of Iranian attacks on GCC states, implementation of the US-Iran memorandum, including Iran's nuclear program, and measures to safeguard maritime freedom and regional stability. Foreign Affairs Minister Dr. Abdulatif Al-Zayyani met in Brussels with UK Secretary of State for Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Affairs Yvette Cooper. The meeting reviewed the long-standing ties between Bahrain and the UK and explored ways to deepen bilateral cooperation in economic, investment and development fields to serve their shared interests. The ministers discussed regional developments, the continued hostile Iranian attacks on Bahrain, GCC countries and Jordan, and the repercussions of Iran's closure of the Strait of Hormuz on freedom of navigation, international trade and the global economy. They also considered prospects for enhancing cooperation and coordination during Bahrain's membership of the UN Security Council and ways to support implementation of Security Council decisions to preserve regional security and stability and to strengthen international peace and security. Cooper condemned the recent attacks in the Arabian Gulf, expressed solidarity with the affected states and seafarers, and stressed the necessity of keeping the Strait of Hormuz open to international navigation. They affirmed that no state may control the Strait or impose transit fees, and confirmed their close partnership on maritime security in the region. Foreign Affairs Minister Dr. Abdulatif Al-Zayyani met with Belgium Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Foreign Affairs, European Affairs and Development Cooperation, Maxime Verlossem, on the sidelines of the Regional Security and Cooperation Forum between the GCC and the EU. The meeting reviewed the close bonds of friendship between Bahrain and Belgium and explored ways to enhance and develop bilateral cooperation to all levels. They exchanged views on regional developments, the repercussions of the hostile Iranian attacks against Bahrain, GCC countries and regional states, and the consequences of the closure of the Strait of Hormuz for international navigation, the global economy, international trade and supplies of energy and food, as well as regional security and stability. The Belgian Deputy Prime Minister condemned the recent attacks against the GCC states, expressed solidarity with the affected countries and seafarers, and stressed the necessity of keeping the Strait of Hormuz open to international navigation. Foreign Affairs Minister Dr. Abdulatif Al-Zayani met with his German counterpart Dr. Johann Wadelpool. The meeting addressed the long-standing relations between the two countries and people and discussed ways to develop bilateral cooperation to serve their shared interests. They also discussed regional developments, the ongoing hostile Iranian attacks against Bahrain and the GCC countries, the effects of a closure of the Strait of Hormuz on energy and food supplies, the global economy and international trade, and exchanged views on regional and international issues of common concern. Dr. Wadelpool condemned the recent attacks in the Arabian Gulf, expressed solidarity with the affected states and seafarers, and underlined the necessity of keeping the Strait of Hormuz open to international navigation. Foreign Affairs Minister Dr. Abdulatif Al-Zayani met with the Irish Minister for Foreign Affairs, Trade and Defence, Helen McEntee. The meeting reviewed the historic bonds between the two countries and discussed ways to strengthen bilateral cooperation and prospects for joint coordination within the framework of Bahrain's chairmanship of the current session of the GCC and Ireland's presidency of the current EU session. They discussed regional developments, the repercussions of the Iranian attacks on Bahrain and the GCC countries' freedom of navigation in the Strait of Hormuz, and ongoing efforts to preserve regional security and stability. McEntee condemned the recent attacks in the Arabian Gulf, expressed solidarity with the affected states and seafarers, and stressed the need to keep the Strait of Hormuz open to international navigation. They affirmed their welcome of the Irish presidency of the EU in shaping a common European stance. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dr. Abdulatif Al-Zayani, met with Austrian Minister for European and International Affairs, Elisabeth Köstinger. The meeting reviewed the close ties between the two countries and ways to develop bilateral cooperation across various fields. They exchanged views on regional developments, the repercussions of Iranian attacks against Bahrain and GCC countries and regional states, the consequences of closing the Strait of Hormuz for international navigation, and the global economy, energy and food supplies, and efforts to preserve regional security and stability. The Austrian minister condemned the recent attacks in the Arabian Gulf, expressed solidarity with the affected states and seafarers, emphasized the need to keep the Strait of Hormuz open to international navigation, and reaffirmed their shared commitment to international law and the UN Charter. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dr. Abdulatif Al-Zayani, also met with his Danish counterpart, Lars Rasmussen. The meeting discussed the historic ties between the two countries, efforts to enhance and broaden bilateral cooperation in political, economic and development fields, means to develop cooperation between the GCC and the EU, and to strengthen bilateral coordination during both countries' membership of the UN Security Council. They also discussed regional developments, the repercussions of the hostile Iranian attacks on Bahrain and GCC countries, and threats to freedom of navigation in the Strait of Hormuz posed by Iran, as well as efforts to preserve regional security and stability. The Danish minister condemned the recent attacks in the Arabian Gulf, expressed solidarity with the affected states and seafarers, and stressed the necessity of keeping the Strait of Hormuz open to international navigation. The Foreign Affairs Minister strongly condemns and denounces the terrorist attacks carried out by the Houthi militia using ballistic missiles against the southern region of Saudi Arabia. This dangerous escalation constitutes a flagrant violation of international law and undermines regional security and stability. In a statement issued by the ministry, it commended the effectiveness and vigilance of Saudi air defenses in responding to these attacks, which help protect lives and property. The ministry reaffirmed Bahrain's steadfast solidarity with Saudi Arabia and its full support for measures taken to preserve Saudi sovereignty, security, stability and territorial integrity. It expressed appreciation for Saudi's efforts in leading the coalition to support legitimacy in Yemen, which achieved a comprehensive and lasting political solution to the Yemeni crises in accordance with the GCC initiative and its implementation mechanism, the outcomes of the National Dialogue Conference and UN Security Council Resolution 2216, preserving Yemen's unity, sovereignty, independence and territorial integrity. Bahrain strongly condemned the Iranian terrorist cruise missile attack on two UAE oil tankers, Mombasa and Al Bahia, in Oman territory waters in the Strait of Hormuz, describing the strike, which killed an Indian crew member and injured others, a dangerous escalation violating international law, the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea and UN Security Council Resolution 2817. In a statement, the Foreign Affairs Ministry affirmed Bahrain's full solidarity with the UAE, backing all legitimate legitimate measures it takes to safeguard its security, sovereignty and vital interests. It also extends its deepest condolences to the victim's family and to the government and people of India, wishing a speedy recovery to those injured. The ministry reiterated Bahrain's call for the international community, particularly the UN Security Council, to take a decisive stand to deter repeated Iranian attacks. It underscored the critical need to guarantee unconditional freedom of navigation and safe transit in the Strait of Hormuz and international waterways, in line with global laws as a vital pillar for energy security, global trade and regional stability. As part of its presidency of the 46th session of the GCC Supreme Council, Bahrain, represented by the Ministry of Municipalities Affairs and Agriculture, is hosting the meeting of the Jury Committee for the GCC Municipalities Award in its sixth cycle 2025-2026. Present were members of the Jury Committee and representatives of the GCC General Secretariat. The Ministry of Municipalities and Agriculture, Engineer Wael al-Mbarak, affirmed that Bahrain's hosting of the meeting underscores its commitment to supporting joint Gulf action and enhancing integration in the municipal sector. He noted that the GCC Municipalities Award represents a significant Gulf platform for encouraging excellence and innovation in municipal work, highlighting leading municipal experiences and disseminating best practices. The meeting aimed to evaluate the submissions for the award according to the established criteria, paving the way for the selection of winning projects and initiatives. The sixth edition of the award witnessed wide participation, with the GCC General Secretariat receiving 39 submissions from municipalities and member states. This reflects the development witnessed by the Gulf municipal sector in adopting high-quality initiatives and projects that support urban sustainability and innovation in municipal work. The winners are scheduled to be announced next September. Bahrain continues to develop its tourism sector through an integrated system that combines investment, hospitality, entertainment and services, enhancing its appeal and cementing its position as a regional and international tourist destination. More in this report.
In the tourism industry, attractive destinations are not built on hotels alone, nor on shopping centers or individual events, but through an integrated system in which various sectors collaborate to create an experience capable of attracting visitors, encouraging them to return, and transforming tourism into a sustainable economic value. From this perspective, the Kingdom of Bahrain continues to consolidate a development vision that views tourism as an integrated economic sector in which investment, services, trade, hospitality and leisure intersect, which enhances the sector's contribution to supporting economic growth, diversifying sources of income, and cementing the Kingdom's position as a regional and international tourist destination. Efforts also continue to strengthen integration between the various components of the tourism sector, expand areas of cooperation, and develop high-quality initiatives to enhance the tourism product, improve the visitor experience, and boost the Kingdom's appeal to attract more visitors and investment. These efforts coincide with ongoing promotional campaigns and a diverse range of tourism events and programs, alongside the Kingdom's advanced infrastructure, diverse tourism offering, and historical, cultural, and recreational assets, which strengthen its ability to attract a wide range of visitors, particularly from the GCC. With the rapid developments in the global tourism industry, Bahrain continues to invest in the sector's development, guided by a vision aimed at creating a comprehensive tourism experience and maximizing the economic impact of tourism by strengthening its contribution to the national economy, which cements the Kingdom's position as a leading regional and international tourist destination.
The Royal Humanitarian Foundation celebrates its 25th anniversary, reflecting on its rich history of building a comprehensive humanitarian system grounded in the values of solidarity and empowerment and fostering a culture of sustainable humanitarian work. More in this report.
On the 25th anniversary of the Royal Humanitarian Foundation, the Foundation continues to cement its position as a leading national model in institutional humanitarian work, guided by a vision that has made giving a sustainable approach and placed people at the center of development and empowerment. Since its establishment on July 14, 2001, the Foundation succeeded in building a comprehensive humanitarian system based on quality, sustainability, governance, innovation, and effective partnerships, which provided comprehensive social and development services and met the needs of beneficiaries in accordance with the best international practices. Over the past 25 years, more than 32,000 orphans and widows have benefited from the Foundation's services, while 75,000 instances of humanitarian assistance were provided alongside the implementation of educational, training and development programs, as well as specialized initiatives and investment, housing and educational projects which enhanced the process of empowerment and expanded the impact of sustainable humanitarian work. The Foundation's generosity has also extended to 17 nations through the implementation of relief, humanitarian and development projects, which help support communities affected by crises and disasters and reinforced human solidarity and reflected Bahrain's active presence in humanitarian work at the regional and international levels. The Royal Humanitarian Foundation continues to develop its services, advance its institutional and digital transformation, and expand its strategic partnerships, ensuring the sustainability of its humanitarian mission and keeping pace with Bahrain's aspirations for a future marked by greater prosperity, development, and generosity.
As part of the government's efforts to improve and re-engineer the quality of services, the Labour Market Regulatory Authority developed a digital service for appealing notices of termination of employment for foreign workers. The service enables foreign workers to submit an appeal within 11 working days of receiving the notice. The chief of the Terrorism Crimes Prosecution announced that the High Criminal Court has handed down judgment in 2 separate espionage cases involving a hostile foreign state, sentencing 3 defendants to life imprisonment for collaborating with the terrorist Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps and individuals acting on its behalf in support of hostile and terrorist activities targeting Bahrain. The court sentenced all 3 to life imprisonment and ordered the confiscation of the seized items. In this context, the public prosecution affirms that the offence of colluding with foreign states hostile to Bahrain is considered one of the most serious crimes affecting national security, given that it enables those states to obtain information which is exploited in carrying out hostile acts targeting the kingdom and its interests. The chief of the Terrorism Crimes Prosecution announced that the High Criminal Court has sentenced 10 defendants in 2 separate cases involving violence and sabotage linked to the Iranian attacks on Bahrain in March. The defendants received prison sentences of up to 5 years, while the court also ordered the confiscation of seized items. The public prosecution reiterated its commitment to taking decisive legal action against anyone involved in acts that threaten public order or endanger the safety of the community through violence or vandalism.